Okay, I'm going to show you how to actually stretch your fonts so they all fit within the same area. So I'm going to come up here to my type tool and I am going to create the name of my company. We're just going to use Myriad Pro just because it's simple for me to show this. The first thing I'm going to do is create my outlines, hold down shift, always make sure you hold down shift, stretch it out to a decent size so I can actually see it. Make sure you bring up your rulers if you don't have your rulers already up. Control R brings them up. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in to where I can see just this. I'm going to put a ruler right on the edge of my D and oops, right on the edge of my F. So I know I want my next part of my text to fit right beneath that. So the next word I need is manufacturing. So I'm going to take my type tool again, stretch it out, and it's all in caps. Manufacturing. So before you outline it, what you do is if you highlight your word, then you push Control and Alt down at the same time, and you use your arrow keys going to the right and to the left. It actually will stretch out your word. So this is me holding Control, Alt, and pushing the right arrow key, and it will stretch it out. If you push the left arrow key, it brings it back in. So I'm going to stretch it out a little. Now I don't want to stretch it out too much because then it could become very awkward. Even if I stretch this all. See, this starts to get a little awkward in spacing. So if I double click and I highlight it, Control Alt left arrow to bring it back. And it might not fit perfectly, so how we deal with that. So let's say I kind of like this spacing. This is kind of nice. I want to right click. Now that I have my spacing pretty much, I'm going to go to Create Outlines. So now it is an object. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to line up my left side, and then I'm going to go over here. I'm going to grab the side here and just stretch it. So you can either do it that way, or if you hold down Shift, grab the corner and stretch it. This keeps everything perfect. So that's usually the best way to do it because I'll show you what both look like. So the top one, I'm just going to grab and stretch. The bottom one, I'm going to hold down Shift so everything stays proportioned and stretch it that way. So you see how this one actually looks a little more stretched and the letters look a little off, whereas this one still stays perfect. So make sure you hold down Shift when you do this because it just has cleaner lettering. So I'm going to delete this and then, oops, bring this back up. Now for the line, all I simply did was use the line tool, click, you have to click and drag, sorry, click, hold down Shift so it's nice and straight, let go. Then up at the top is where you actually add your stroke, your line, all that stuff. So you can set it to whatever setting you want. Move that up so it's sitting right there. And then I need function defines form. So same thing, I'm going to take my type box. Make sure you always double check your spelling because Adobe does not have spell check. Okay, so I have this basically done. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to hold down Control, Alt, right arrow key, stretch it a little bit. Oops, it's almost there. Now I don't want this one too large in size, so I'm actually going to highlight it and lower the font size to about 8 or so, because I want this smaller because it's not as important. So I'm just checking something with the lettering. That's a really weird F. Okay, something's going on. I'm going to redo this because the spacing between the F and the I is not working right. So I'm going to erase it, redo my text tool. Okay, so this is how that text actually is, and I can tell you that that is pretty awful. So you can see that this F and this I are touching, and that's really weird. And it just doesn't look good. You can't even stretch them out. They just stay stuck together. So that means I would not want to use this font for lowercase. So I'm going to change my font. That's things you have to look for when you're designing. If your font doesn't work, you have to change it up. If you can't fix it, you have to change it. Okay. So stretch it a little bit. Line it up under here. Now if you'll notice, oops, sorry. Now if you'll notice, my M, it is lined up, but my F is lined up with the box. However, I want it lined up with the edge of the letter. So I'm going to move it over. That way all of them are lined up. And then I'm going to right click. I'm going to create the outline. Hold down Shift and stretch it. And that's how I have stretched my fonts to fill from left to right. You really don't want your fonts to stagger and be awkward, so this way everything kind of fills and it feels nice, and this would look really good on a business card. This would look really good as a sticker. If I just left everything the way it was, things would be spaced pretty weirdly. So let's say I have sorry. And then I place this underneath. It just doesn't flow very well. So we usually like to make everything line up. Lining up is really important. So make sure you guys line up all your fonts and it'll make it a lot cleaner. So this is how you actually stretch your fonts.